Everybody, welcome back to a max velocity weather forecast, and today what we're going over is that potential for severe weather both today and tomorrow across a good portion of the United States, and as well as later in this forecast we'll go over that potential big cool down coming to a large portion of the United States. I'll get more details on that, who will see that cool down, when it's arriving, everything like that is in this forecast. Let's get right into it. So as of right now, there is a marginal risk for severe weather. This does include the Central Plains actually, and it goes all the way through the Midwest. This is a very large risk area today. It's only a marginal risk, but it is a fairly large area that's going to be covering. It starts from as far west as Kansas, and it goes into Kansas City, by the way. Includes northern Missouri, eastern and southern portions of Iowa, northern Illinois. It also goes all the way up to the northeast into Michigan. I mean, it's a very large risk today. It also includes, again, Wisconsin as well as northwestern Illinois. Main threats today will be damaging winds and maybe some large hail. I'm not expecting much in terms of a tornado threat today, but definitely don't rule out maybe a brief spin up. Overall shear, though, should be pretty weak. Here's a look at the timing this afternoon. This is 5 to 6 o'clock this evening. Start to see a few showers and storms bubbling up, especially really any from Hayes over Manhattan, even towards St. Joseph. We're starting to see those storms bubble up. Overall, most of these will just be marginally severe. I'm not expecting much to be honest with you in terms of anything beyond that. Maybe up to golf ball sized hail, damaging winds between 60 to 65 miles per hour, maybe possible as well. 7 to 8 o'clock, we'll start to see these storms moving off to the northeast. You can see more storm activity filling in really along the interstate closer to Manhattan as well as Topeka. Eventually by about 9 to 10 o'clock, storms move off to the northeast. Most of these just being ordinary storms after about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. So the overall severity of this will likely peak between about 5 to 8 o'clock tonight and eventually going to the overnight hours. More storms possible, but for the most part, just going to be rain after about 10 o'clock or so tonight. Just look at the timing back over closer to Missouri. Eventually by 7 to 8 o'clock tonight, we'll start to see some storms again, possibly towards St. Joseph. These will be tracking more to the east over in this area. Eventually by about 9 to 10 o'clock, those storms are continuing to track off to the east, again, producing mainly some large hail and damaging wind gusts. Going to the overnight hours, some storms may still be ongoing in Kansas City, so just keep that in mind if you're over that way. Going to the morning hours, more showers and potentially weak storms rolling through those areas, and eventually heading into later Wednesday. Most of that stuff should be clearing out by then. We have another chance for severe weather as well going into tomorrow. There's actually a slight risk for severe weather across northern Virginia, a good portion of Pennsylvania, southern New York. This does include portions of West Virginia, and there's also a marginal threat that extends as far west as even Illinois, and it goes as far east as New York. The main threats in this case will be damaging winds potentially up to 70 miles per hour, hail up to the size of maybe $half or ping pong balls may occur with a storm or two. A tornado threat does exist tomorrow. It's going to be a fairly low-end risk, but it is definitely going to be a possibility, especially really anywhere in that yellow shaded region. Let's hop into that tornado threat. As you can see here, very well depicted here on the map. It's basically in this area anywhere from northern Virginia up through southern New York. That is your range for tomorrow. Here's a look at the timing for tomorrow. 2 to 3 o'clock, we'll start to see some storms bubbling up, and this is primarily going to be up here in Pennsylvania near Williamsport and as well as near St. Mary's. Those will be the areas where the storms initially develop. Eventually by 4 o'clock, State College is starting to see those storms by then. 5 to 6 o'clock, more storms are filling in, especially even closer to New York. Again, maybe an isolated tornado with one of these storms can't be ruled out, but for the most part, I think the overall threat will just be damaging winds. By 7 to 8 o'clock, more storms filling in across Pennsylvania. Possibility for maybe some flash flooding may exist tomorrow afternoon and evening. By 10 to 11 o'clock, mostly just rain after that point. You can see a lot more rain during the overnight hours into early Thursday morning. That's what we're looking at there. Here's a look at the timing overall in the east coast for the most part. So you can start to see some storms rolling through areas like Charlottesville, going toward Richmond. Eventually by 7 to 8 o'clock, more storms moving down to the south. By about 10 to 11 o'clock, we'll have more shower and storm activity close to areas like Richmond, Charlottesville, Harrisonburg. More storms over in West Virginia as well. Eventually by midnight to 1 in the morning, all those storms moving down to the south, eventually entering into North Carolina like Greensboro, as well as Raleigh, Greenville, as well as Jacksonville. Those areas starting to see some rain. Eventually by 5 to 6 in the morning, all that's just to eventually clear out, and we should be drying out by then. So good news overall. Not a whole lot in terms of severe weather down to the south, but again, main threat going to be up there in the northeastern portions of the United States. Now let's take a look at the overall temperature outlook over the next 6 to 10 days. This is actually some pretty big news. So the Climate Prediction Center has already issued their 6 to 10 day outlook, which includes this upcoming Sunday through Thursday. And you can see that the blue area is representing your below average temperatures. The red is indicating above average temperatures. Here's where that cold front is going to be coming through. I have a little trough up here that's going to bring a pretty big significant cool down to a large portion of not just the central plains, but as well as even into the northern plains. Now, as of right now, they're forecasting that we'll have below average temperatures, most likely anywhere from, again, down to the southwest for those areas in the monsoon area. and as well as back out to the northeast, obviously into the Midwest. Now, as you can see here, there's a red area here that's representing your potential for above average temperatures. That would be primarily for those in southeastern Texas and Louisiana, as well as Mississippi, Alabama. Large areas included in that, but that cold front will at least bring some cooler temperatures, not just to those areas. We'll see some cooler temperatures temporarily in portions like Texas, and as well as maybe even areas like Missouri, but overall, it will still be above average for the 6 to 10 day outlook in those areas. And here's a quick look at the jet stream and the overall pattern as of right now. We basically have this low pressure system that'll fill in off to the north. This will eventually bring us that cold front going into this weekend and bring us some much needed cooler temperatures overall. You can kind of see going into the weekend, eventually by Sunday to Monday, this trough builds in, it dips down to the south through Michigan. That's going to be huge because, again, it's going to bring a pretty significant cool down. Now, overall, depending on how far south that does dip, would really depict how cool it gets. It could very well be much cooler than what's already being forecasted, but at this point, it's definitely something to watch. Again, that will possibly bring temperatures as low as 20 to 30 degrees from the initial temperature from the day before in terms of high temperatures. That's definitely a possibility for those that are closer to the cold front in the low pressure system. Here's looking at the overall precipitation as well over the next several days. This is basically over the next 2 weeks or so. Really, there's still a lot of areas in need of rain, and that really includes areas like Texas. This area desperately needs rain. We're going to start to see, it looks like, a little bit more rainfall, though, for those areas. Not by much, but there will definitely be at least some sort of beneficial rainfall potentially coming pretty soon. So very well, good news there. Here's looking at the temperature anomalies as well. I use this pretty often, really, for just any sort of forecast in terms of above and below average temperatures. The reds are representing your above average temperatures. Blues representing below average temperatures. This is Wednesday into Thursday. The warm air is just going to continue throughout the entire Midwest, southern plains, really anywhere in the United States going to be seeing that. The exception would basically be this big cold air area. That's going to be associated with that trough back here. You got your cold front starting to bring colder air into some of these areas, including Montana, and as well as north of Michigan into Canada. Eventually going to Sunday, you can see that cold air eventually starts to filter down to the south. Now, the only unfortunate thing is this trough will eventually probably move off to the east. That's really the unfortunate news, because otherwise, if this was to be further to the south, we could be talking about a much larger cool down. Again, overall, the temperatures, if you see the lighter green or the lighter blues, I mean here, those are really representing just a small difference in temperatures. The darker blues are representing potentially a much larger area of difference. Eventually in Texas, they do go a little bit below average for maybe a day or two, but overall, it's not going to last long. You'd see the heat will eventually return again. Another trough may build into the northeast going into Saturday of next week, not this week, but next week. That might bring another small cool down, but at this time, it's not looking to be anything that major at this point, unfortunately. Here's like the rain as well over the next 7 to 10 days. You can see that they'll have that little system out here in the New England area for the next couple of days. Eventually going to Saturday and Sunday, we'll have another trough again, potentially bring isolated severe weather. Sunday to Monday, more storm activity potentially across the Mississippi Valley and southern plains. That probably won't be anything in terms of severe weather, but very well could bring us some rain as well. Eventually going to Thursday and Friday of next week, that other trough starts to build into the northeast, or really into the Midwest, eventually going to the northeast. That could also bring maybe isolated severe weather, but overall, not too much of a concern now. Sure, stay updated with Max Velocity for the latest here on YouTube. Make sure to follow us, make sure to subscribe down below and like the video. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting, Alten's Repair, and Patriot Safe Rooms. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this forecast. If you did, make sure to hit the like button down below. Make sure to subscribe for more great forecasts.